What's up guys, and welcome to the 7th tutorial in my stress testing series. And in this tutorial we're gonna go through the real nice things about JMeter, and also gonna look at some of the problems that we discovered in the previous tutorial. So just to summarize, the problem that we had in the previous tutorial was that there are going to be one user session at a time, and also that we had hard-coded the user here in the HTTP login, which meant that for every iteration of this, it was the same user all the time. So the general approach to this that we're going to use is we're going to put all the data that we need in a CSV file, and it's just like a comma separated file. I have mine right here on my computer, so I'm gonna take a look at what I got in there. I'm calling it users.csv, and it's just like separated by comma. So what I did, I put some users in here, like 1, 2, 3, 4 customer servers, and then I also put them in my database in here, as you can see in the users table right here. I have these users here, like 2, 3, 4, and there is a better approach, because this is just like a demo application that I have for tutorials like this. But in working environments, what I would have done is I would have separated out my data access layer so that I can easily switch between what database implementation that I'm using. And whenever I'm supposed to be running these stress tests, especially if I run them on localhost, what I would do is I would mock out so that whenever you do the login, it actually reads the users from this CSV file instead of the database. So that will mean that if you post this username and this password, it's going to go and look in the CSV file if it's there. And if it is, it's going to check the password if it's the same and then do the exact same thing as it does. So that's why the repository design pattern is really nice for applications like whatever application have a database or some kind of data set in any way. So yeah, look into that design pattern if you don't know about it, because it's super nice. And now it's gonna help us a lot, because now we can mock out the database access layer to just like read from this CSV file of all the users that we're using in our stress test. So in order to do this, I'm going to assume that you have everything set up with the CSV file and making sure that they can actually log in with those users. And by the way, if you didn't notice, it's just like separated by comma right here, and then it's a new line character in the end here. So that's how CSV works. And for the most part, I should say, I added also an environment variable that contains the fully qualified path to this CSV file that I have, and I call it CSV path. So the first thing that I need to do is in my thread group here, which I call users, I'm gonna go ahead and grab these variables. And in order to do it, you right click here and then you go to add, and then I think it's, let me just double check what it's called. It's called CSV dataset config. I think it's somewhere here. Is it here? Yes, it's here under configuration element and then CSV dataset config. So as soon as you added that, you put it at the top, so it's going to be the first thing that happens. You give it a proper name, and the file name is going to be the fully path to that CSV file they're going to use. And here you specify the variables that you want to grab. So it's going to grab each line, and it's going to, these are the variable names within JMeter that we're going to use. So it's going to be called username and password. You can think of it as a regex or something, I don't know. So it's going to grab those. For each row, it's going to grab these, and it's going to be calling them username and password. And this is the delimiter. It might be different from you, I suggest you do it from terminal when you create CSV files, because then you know that, because sometimes they use semicolon and stuff like that, or tab, or I don't know, different stuff. So it's easier if you just create it from terminal. And the other one here, you can read in the manual, I guess. I just keep the default settings here. So now, after this is run, we're going to have a specific user for each loop in here whenever it's running. That's going to contain the username and password variables. So in here, we can use these variables that we defined instead of the hard-coded that we had previously. So just a heads up, don't forget to wrap them in. If you're using JSON, don't forget to wrap them in quotation. Otherwise, it won't work. So just a heads up there. And if you should you run into problems with this, you can only try to run it and then check the results tree here, and then you go to requests, and then you can see, for example, here the token isn't set properly yet, and you can also check that it actually grabbed the right ones. So I'm gonna go through this later. And same thing here, add authentication as previously, no difference. And the get client, also no difference. And we're gonna get different results, obviously. So I'm gonna go ahead and clear everything and run it and see what it gives us. So now that it runs, you can see that I've also set it to 4 users, because that's how many users I have in my CSV file. So you can see if I have 4 users. If I would set it to 5, it wouldn't work, because then the first token would be off. And so you need to set it to the number of users that you have in your CSV file right here. And let's go ahead and check this out. So what did we actually post? So you can see here's the customer service without any number. Here on the second one is customer service 2, and then number 3 and number 4. And they get different tokens back, and they actually have different user IDs as well. So this is nice, because now we can use different users for different stuff, you know. And we grab the token and user ID as before. And in here, you can see that now everything passes. It's kind of boring in this way, because all these users have the same clients, I think. Yeah, so you don't actually get any difference. But if they would have different users in the database, they would get different outputs here. So as you can see in this scenario, it's so much more sophisticated whenever it comes to like creating sessions with like real scenarios of how you would actually interact in the application. So the CSV file is the last piece of that puzzle in order to create different scenarios. And at this point, I think you know as much as you need to, because this is basically as much as I know. And what you can do is like, this should probably not be called users. This should probably call something like get customer service clients, because that's the endpoint, you know, that's the end result that we get the clients whenever we logged in and everything. So this is one stress test that you can do, and then whenever you feel done, you just like, you can close it up, and then you can create another thread group that's, I don't know, you can call it like, I have different roles in here, so I could continue with, if I go to my routes in here, I would probably continue with the customer service manager, which is not the same user as the customer service, even though they're pretty close. So you can see they can do a lot more stuff like posting and whatever. And at this point, we also know how to make one request, like a get request, and then grab data from that request and use it in the next one. So also, for example, here you can see that it wants the user ID, or an ID to a specific planning request, I think it is. So that would also be something that you can use with the stuff that we learned. And from there on, it just goes on basically. And yeah, that's basically it. I hope you guys liked this short series about how to do basic stress testing. And yes, and don't forget to subscribe and also leave a comment if anything is unclear. And I also have a couple of other tutorial series that you can like check in if you like. There's some with basic like the ordinary like hacking stuff, and also there is a PHP tutorial that's that I built like a framework from the bottom up. So don't forget to check that in also. Apart from that, I hope you guys liked it, and I hope to see you in one of my other series. Bye bye.